back to my video series documenting my DIY Overland trailer build. This is the third video in the series. I will put links to the other videos and to the more in-depth articles on ordealist.com in the description below. In the previous video, I talked about building the trailer frame, putting the wheels on, and the suspension. In this video, I'll talk about building the frame for the trailer box and attaching the fenders to the frame. One of the criteria for designing the cargo box was that it could fit a large cooler or a fridge freezer, portable fridge freezer. Right now I have a Pelican cooler that's 65 quarts, which is pretty large. And down the road I'll probably get a fridge freezer, electronic fridge freezer, once I have a battery system built into the trailer. So the trailer had to be tall enough to fit those. It's 2 feet tall, so I think that's plenty tall for most of the fridge freezers I saw out there. The trailer is 6 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 2 feet tall. And the frame is actually made of, so the frame for the trailer, the base of the trailer, was 2 by 2 inch square mild steel tubing. The box is made of similar metal, same metal, but it's 1.5 inch square tubing. The box was actually pretty easy to build. It was really a matter of just cutting the tubing, prepping it for welding, and making sure that everything was squared up as I welded it together. The hard part actually turned out to be more the fenders, which you'll see later in the video. It wasn't simple to get them on. And it took a little bit of extra construction to build a bracket for them to fit on. Before you weld tubing together, you've got to get it prepped, which means removing the mill scale, which is a kind of a shell, hard shell that forms on the outside of the tubing due to the, when it's heated up and extruded. I recommend taking all of the mill scale off before you weld things together. It's tempting just to remove the mill scale right around the edges of the tubing where you're actually going to connect the pieces together. But it's really a pain to go back and remove the mill scale later, just getting all the corners and stuff once you've welded up. I found the best way to remove mill scale is to use the Scotch-Brite clean and strip pads, I think, or something like that. I'll put a link in the description below, but these are really good. You just put them on a angle grinder or a polisher and they pull the mill scale right off. You'll see as I finish different stages of the trailer, after I'd welded the metal together, like the frame and then the cargo box, I actually painted it with a metal primer. That was just to protect it from rusting while I continued to work on the trailer. Later on I could remove that, sand it off, and weld up other things to it if I needed to, but that kept it from rusting. Quick PSA, when you're working with metal, be sure to wear a respirator, eye protection, gloves. There's a lot of particles that get in the air that you don't want to breathe in. You also don't want the shards of metal that shoot off of power tools getting in your eyes or cutting your hands. After the cargo box was done, it was time to work on the doors. The trailer has a door on the side right here and a door in the back, tailgate. For the doors I used 1 by 1 inch steel tube, and then I clad it with steel sheet. Once the door frames are welded together, I laid them on the sheet and then I traced the outline and then cut the sheet to fit the doors. After I'd cut them out and prepped everything for welding, Then I spot welded around the inside edge of the frame, welding the sheeting to the metal frame. I only spot welded. One was to save time, to save the wire from the welder. Also maybe to save some weight. That was my thinking at the time. Later on, I had to go back and fill in the parts that I didn't weld with an adhesive sealant just to keep water out. So I don't know if that was the best way to do it. It's how I did it. But you know, if you're doing the same thing, you might want to consider welding the entire seam. Once the doors were built, I turned my attention to the fenders. Today I am going to put the fenders on the trailer. I've been working on the fenders for a while. It actually turned out to be more complicated than I thought it would be. I ended up buying these guys. The only thing is they are roughly a foot wide, and the tires on the trailer stick out maybe 2 inches from the frame. So, and the tires are a little under 12 inches wide, so I think they're like 11 inches wide, let's say 10.5 inches wide. So they don't, I can't get the fender to come all the way out to cover the outside of the tire, and I want that for 2 reasons. One is to, you know, prevent stuff from shooting up and hitting other cars. The other reason is I suspect that that's a requirement for getting the car registered with California, or the trailer registered with California. So I want to make sure that I'm making the trailer correctly so that I can actually get it registered and approved by the state. Otherwise, I'll have to drive it around illegally, and I don't want to do that. So today I'm going to cut some new pieces to help mount this fender on the car. You can see here that what I did, my solution to the problem with the fender not being able to bolt it flush to the side of the trailer, is I have included these. I've added I want to say 2.5 inch piece of square steel tube, or rectangular steel tube, and that way the fender will be floating away from the frame. So you can see it here. So see, it's mounted onto the frame, welded it onto the frame, and it sticks out. I cut these at 45 degrees. I'm going to seal it off and cap it with some steel. That way stuff won't get inside there. So today what I need to do, what I realized though, is that the fender has these holes. So it has holes across the top, there and there and there, and it has holes that come down on the side pieces. The top holes will bolt into this. There's basically a bolt that goes through and comes all the way out, and then I'll bolt it on the back. So those top 3 pieces will hold onto that, but I'm not confident that that's going to be enough to keep the fender from shaking around a lot, because the sides will still be disconnected. So what I'm going to do today is cut some angular pieces that will match those the sides of the fender, and we'll come down and we'll mount, we weld it onto here and then come down and connect there. And that way I can also screw the sides of the fender into this new piece of framing that I'm adding. I'm going to cut the tubing to match the shape of the fender. Once the fenders were in place, I welded the mounting brackets to the frame for the stabilizer jacks. That's a good place to stop for this video. As with the others, I'll put links to the other videos in the series, the articles on ordealist.com, which go into detail on each step, and also links to some of the equipment and supplies that I use to build the trailer. In the next video, we'll go through the process of cladding the cargo box, so putting the aluminum skin on it, putting on trim, and painting it.